A newlywed couple had just moved into their cozy new home. The very next day, the wife said, "Darling, there's a leak in the bathroom pipe. Can you fix it?" The husband replied, "What do I look like to you, Bob the Builder?" A few days later she asked, "Honey, my car won't start. Can you drive me to the grocery store?" He shot back, "What do I look like to you, a taxi driver?" A week passed. "Sweetheart, the roof is leaking. Can you call someone to fix it?" His response, "What do I look like to you, the Yellow Pages?" Then one rainy afternoon, the husband noticed something odd. No more leaks. The bathroom pipe fixed. The car running like new. The roof bone dry. When his wife came home, he asked, "How did everything get fixed?" She smiled and said, "Our neighbor Daniel helped. He offered to fix everything for free, if I baked him a cake or slept with him." The husband nodded, relieved. "Phew. So, what kind of cake did you bake him?" She looked him dead in the eye and said, "What do I look like to you, Betty Crocker?" Preacher Bob liked to coordinate his message with the choir every Sunday. They met one week and Preacher Bob said, "Brothers and sisters, I'll be preaching this Sunday on the topic of steadfastness in our service to God. What hymn should we sing?" Miss Bertha piped up, "I shall not be moved." They met the next week and Preacher Bob said, "Brothers and sisters, I'll be preaching this Sunday on the topic of tithes and gladness in giving to the Lord. What hymn should we sing?" Quinton McFarland raised his hand and said, "Jesus paid it all." They met again a week after and Preacher Bob said, "Brothers and sisters, I'll be preaching this week on the evils of fornication. What hymn should we sing?" Back in the back row, old Zachariah Peabody sighed fondly, "Precious memories." Student, "Sir, can I ask you a question?" Teacher, "Of course, go ahead." Student, "How do you put an elephant inside a fridge?" Teacher, I'm not sure." Student, "It's simple. Just open the fridge and put it in." I have another question. Teacher, "All right, go ahead." Student, "How do you put a donkey inside the fridge?" Teacher, "Well, you just open the fridge and put it in, right?" Student, "No, sir. You first need to take out the elephant, then put in the donkey." Teacher, "Oh, I see." Student, "Let me ask one more. If all the animals went to the lion's birthday party, which animal didn't make it?" Teacher, "The lion, of course. It'd be too busy eating the other animals." Student, "Nope, it's the donkey. It's still in the fridge." Teacher, "Are you kidding me?" Student, "No, sir. Just one last question." Teacher, "All right, let's hear it." Student, "If you had to cross a river full of crocodiles, how would you do it?" Teacher, "I'd have to find a boat, no doubt." Student, "No, sir. You just swim across, since all the crocodiles are at the lion's birthday party." Teacher, "All right, now I have a question for you. If every student came to school except one, who would that be?" Student, I'm not sure, sir." Teacher, "It's you, because you're on 2-week suspension." Little Johnny was caught swearing by his teacher. "Johnny," she said, "you shouldn't use language like that. Where did you even hear those words?" "My dad said them," he replied. "Well, that doesn't make it okay," the teacher replied. "I bet you don't even know what it means." "Oh, yes, I do." Little Johnny shot back. "It means the car won't start." 3 very different couples want to get married at the same church. There is a very young couple, a middle-aged couple, and an elderly couple of over 70. All 3 couples meet with the priest of the church to discuss when and how they can get married. "In order to get married in my church, I have one rule: you really have to go 1 month without making love," says the priest to the couples. After 1 month, all 3 couples return to the church to talk with the priest again. The priest starts with the young couple and asks them, "Did you make love in the last month after you came here first?" "No, we haven't, and it was very easy to our own surprise," replies the young couple. He then turned to the middle-aged couple. "How about you?" He asks the couple. "It was really hard, Father, but we didn't make love for the whole month," replies the middle-aged couple. And how about the two of you? He then asks the elderly couple. I'm really sorry, Father, but we just couldn't make it till the end, responds the old man. Not. Then please tell me why not, says the priest. Well, Father, my woman had a can of soup in her hand when she accidentally dropped it on the floor. And when she bent over to pick it up again, well, that's when it happened, Father. The priest, still a bit in shock, then tells them, I'm sorry, but in that case, you're not welcome in my church to get married. We're also not welcome in the supermarket anymore either, says the old man. A large woman, wearing a sleeveless sundress, walked into a bar in London. She raised her right arm, revealing a huge, hairy armpit as she pointed to all the people sitting at the bar and asked, What man here will buy a lady a drink? The bar went silent as the patrons tried to ignore her. But down at the end of the bar, an owly-eyed drunk slammed his hand down on the counter and bellowed, Give the ballerina a drink. The bartender poured the drink, and the woman chugged it down in one. She turned to the patrons and again pointed around at all of them, revealing the same hairy armpit, and asked, What man here will buy a lady a drink? Once again, the same little drunk slapped his money down on the bar and boomed, Give the ballerina another drink. The bartender approached the little drunk and said, I say, old chap, it's your business if you want to buy the lady a drink, but why do you keep calling her the ballerina? As far as I'm concerned, the drunk replied, any woman who can lift her leg that high has got to be a ballerina. Little Johnny's next-door neighbor had a new baby. Unfortunately, the baby was born with no ears. When they arrived home from the hospital, the parents invited little Johnny's family to come over and see their new baby. Before visiting, little Johnny's parents warned Johnny about the infant's problem and tell him to be sensitive. At the neighbor's home, little Johnny leaned over the crib and touched the baby's hand. He looked at its mother and said, Oh, what a beautiful little baby. The mother said, Thank you very much, little Johnny. Little Johnny then said, This baby has perfect little hands and perfect little feet. Why, just look at his pretty little eyes. Did his doctor say he can see good? The mother said, Why, yes, his doctor said he has 20/20 vision. Little Johnny said, Well, it's a darn good thing, 'cause he sure as heck can't wear glasses. A class was being taught when Bill Clinton walks in. He asks the class, What is a tragedy? After a few seconds, a kid named Matthew raises his hand. Matthew says, If my family and I got crushed by a semi while we were driving, that would be a tragedy. Bill Clinton responded, That would be an accident, not a tragedy. After a few minutes, another kid, Martha, raised her hand. She says, If our school got shot up by a person and nobody survived it. To which Bill Clinton replies, That would be a great loss, not a tragedy. The class was very quiet now, with even the teacher looking very confused. But one kid, John, brightens up and says, If you and Hillary Clinton were on a plane and it was exploded by a bomb, that would be a tragedy. Bill, looking very pleased, smiles and says, You're correct. How did you know? John, eager to share his answer, says, Because it definitely isn't an accident, and certainly not a great loss. An old retired sailor puts on his old uniform and goes down to the docks once more for old time's sake. He hires a prostitute and takes her up to a room. He's going at it as best as he can for a guy his age when he asks, How am I doing? The prostitute replies, Well, sailor, you're doing about 3 knots. 3 knots, he replies. What's that supposed to mean? She says, You're not hard, you're not in, and you're not getting your money back. A Texas state trooper pulled over a car on I-35 about 2 miles south of Waco, Texas. When the trooper asked the driver why he was speeding, the man explained that he was a magician and juggler on his way to Austin to perform for the Shrine Circus. He didn't want to be late. Intrigued, the trooper admitted he had always been fascinated by juggling and made the driver an offer. If he could put on a little show, he'd let him off with a warning. The driver sighed and said he had sent all his equipment ahead and had nothing to juggle. The trooper thought for a moment, then said, I've got some flares in the trunk. Can you juggle those? The performer nodded, so the trooper retrieved 5 flares, lit them, and handed them over. As the juggler expertly tossed and caught the blazing flares, a car pulled up behind the patrol vehicle. A noticeably intoxicated man from Central Texas stumbled out, stared in disbelief at the fiery spectacle, and then walked over to the trooper's car. Without a word, he opened the rear door and climbed in. The trooper, watching this unfold, approached the vehicle and asked, "What do you think you're doing?" The drunk shook his head and muttered, "You might as well take me to jail, 'cause there ain't no way I'm passing that test." A redneck family found themselves in a big city for the very first time. As they wandered through a bustling mall, the father and son marveled at their surroundings while the wife explored the shops. Their eyes widened in wonder at almost everything they encountered, but nothing captured their attention quite like two shiny silver doors that slid apart and back together again. Curious, the boy turned to his dad and asked, "Pa, what's that?" The father, having never seen an elevator before, scratched his head and replied, "Son, I ain't got a clue. I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life." As they stood there in awe, an elderly lady in a wheelchair approached the sliding doors and pressed a button. To their amazement, the doors opened, and she rolled into a small, enclosed space. The father and son watched as circular numbers above the doors lit up one by one, climbing higher and higher. When they reached the last number, the lights began to descend in reverse order. Suddenly, the doors opened once more, revealing a stunning, voluptuous blonde woman in her 20s stepping out. The father, his gaze fixed on the young woman, leaned down to his son and said, "Boy, you better go get your mama." An elderly couple is sitting on the porch, reminiscing about their younger days. The husband leans over and says, "Martha, do you remember the first time we kissed behind that old barn on your family's farm?" She chuckles, "Oh, of course, Harold. How could I forget?" "Well," he says with a wink, "what do you say we take a little walk down memory lane?" Martha giggles. "Harold, you charmer. That sounds like a fun idea." A young farmhand overhears their conversation and, curious, decides to follow at a distance, wondering what the two are up to. The couple slowly makes their way to the old barn, leaning on each other and their canes for support. Once there, they share a warm embrace against the barn wall. Suddenly, they both jolt with surprise and stumble backward. After regaining their balance, they exchange a look of shock. The farmhand, now concerned, rushes over and asks, "Are you two all right?" Harold, catching his breath, chuckles and says, "Son, 50 years ago, that barn wall wasn't electrified." An 8-year-old boy is walking down the road one day when a car pulls over next to him. "If you get in the car," the driver says, "I'll give you $10 and a packet of sweets." The boy refuses and keeps on walking. A few moments later, not to take no for an answer, the man driving the car pulls over again. "How about $20 and 2 packets of sweets?" The boy tells the man to leave him alone and keeps on walking. Still further down the road, the man pulls over to the side road. "Okay," he says. "This is my final offer. I'll give you $50 and all the sweets you can eat." The little boy stops, goes to the car and leans in. "Look," he shouts at the driver. "You bought the Volvo, Dad. You'll have to live with it." A man is approached by a suspicious-looking guy. A man is approached in the street by a suspicious-looking guy. "Wanna make a quick buck? Follow me," he says. The man, after some thought, says what the hell and decides to follow him. After a door, a long flight of stairs, and a lengthy hallway. The man about to bail on the whole thing when finally, the hallway opens up into the stands of a large arena. He looks into the arena and sees in the center a small sand pit surrounded by tall spikes with a cage of cows above it. Do you see those cows? They're all doped up on marijuana, so they'll just fall out of the cage when it's opened. If you manage to survive a minute in the pit without getting squashed by a falling cow, you'll get $1 million. "Can I think about it?" the man says. "Oh, of course, take your time." The man sits for a minute, but after analyzing the distance from the cage to the pit, the state of the cows, the spikes, and the overall risk, says, "Sorry, I don't think I'll do it. The stakes are just too high." Two old friends were just about to tee off at the first hole of their local golf course when a guy carrying a golf bag called out to them, "Do you mind if I join you?" "My partner didn't turn up." "Sure," they said. "You're welcome." So they started playing and enjoyed the game and the company of the newcomer. Part way around the course, one of the friends asked the newcomer, "What do you do for a living?" "I'm a hitman," was the reply. "You're joking," was the response. "No, I'm not," he said, reaching into his golf bag and pulling out a beautiful Martini sniper's rifle with a large telescopic sight. "Here are my tools." "That's a beautiful telescopic sight," said the other friend. "Can I take a look? I think I might be able to see my house from here." So he picked up the rifle and looked through the sight in the direction of his house. "Yeah, I can see my house all right. This sight is fantastic. I can see right in the window. Wow, I can see my wife in the bedroom. Ha ha, I can see she's naked. Wait a minute, that's my neighbor in there with her. He's naked too." He turned to the hitman. "How much do you charge for a hit?" "I'll do a flat rate, for you, $1,000 every time I pull the trigger." "Can you do 2 for me now?" "Sure. What do you want?" "First, shoot my wife. She's always been mouthy, so shoot her in the mouth. Then the neighbor, he's a friend of mine, so just shoot his willy off to teach him a lesson." The hitman took the rifle and took aim, standing perfectly still for a few minutes. "Are you going to do it or not?" said the friend impatiently. "Just be patient," said the hitman calmly. "I think I can save you $1,000 here."